The Treaty of Hudaybiyyah, a turning point in Islamic history. In the 6th year after the Hijrah, 628 CE, the Prophet Muhammad saw a dream in which he and his companions were performing Umrah peacefully in Makkah. Believing this dream to be a true vision from Allah, he decided to travel from Medina to Makkah with his companions to fulfill the pilgrimage. The purpose of the journey was purely religious and peaceful, not for war or conflict. Around 400 Muslims set out with him, dressed in the simple garments of pilgrims' ihram, carrying only swords as was the custom for travelers at that time. They brought along sacrificial animals to show that their intention was solely to perform Umrah. When the Quraysh of Makkah learned about this movement, they became alarmed. They feared that allowing the Muslims to enter the city would be seen as a sign of weakness and would strengthen the Prophet's influence. Thus, they decided to stop the Muslims by force. Arrival at Hudaybiyyah, the Prophet and his companions camped at a place called Hudaybiyyah, located on the outskirts of Makkah. There, they waited to negotiate with the Quraysh, hoping for a peaceful resolution. The Prophet sent messengers to explain that their visit was peaceful and that they had no intention of fighting. Among those sent was Uthman ibn Affan the who had strong family ties in Makkah. The Quraysh detained him longer than expected, and a rumor spread among the Muslims that he had been killed. Deeply moved, the Prophet gathered his companions under a tree and took a solemn pledge from them, known as the Bay'at al-Ridwan, the pledge of satisfaction, that they would not retreat until they avenged Uthman's death. This act of loyalty and unity strengthened the spirit of the Muslims, and the Quraysh, realizing their determination, quickly sent envoys to negotiate. Negotiations begin after several exchanges. The Quraysh sent their representative Suhail ibn Amr to finalize a treaty. The Prophet agreed, seeing peace as an opportunity for Islam to grow without conflict. The treaty, though seemingly unfavorable at first, had several key terms. Peace for 10 years, parties agreed a 10-year truce, during which no side would attack the other. Deferred Umrah, the Muslims would return to Medina that year and come back the following year for Umrah, staying in Makkah for only 3 days. Return of refugees, if any man from the Quraysh came to the Muslims without permission from his guardian, he would be returned to Makkah. However, if a Muslim left Medina and went to the Quraysh, he would not be returned. Freedom for alliances, any tribe wishing to join either side could freely do so. Reactions and wisdom, many companions felt disheartened by the terms, especially the condition about returning anyone who fled from Makkah to Medina. Umar ibn al-Khattab Khazara expressed his concern openly, questioning why Muslims had to accept such harsh terms. However, the Prophet, guided by divine wisdom, remained calm and patient. He knew that this peace agreement would open greater doors for Islam. After the treaty was signed, the Prophet instructed his companions to sacrifice their animals and shave their heads as a sign that the pilgrimage had ended. At first, they were reluctant because of their disappointment, but when the Prophet set the example himself, they all followed immediately. The outcome of the treaty, though the treaty seemed like a setback, it soon proved to be great victory. It allowed the Muslims and Quraysh to interact peacefully, and as a result, people across Arabia had the chance to hear and understand Islam without fear of war. During the 2 years that followed, more people entered Islam than in all the previous years combined. Even some leaders of the Quraysh began to reconsider their stance. Not long after, the Quraysh violated the treaty by supporting one of their allies in an attack against a tribe allied with the Muslims. This breach gave the Prophet a justified reason to march on Makkah, an event that led to the peaceful conquest of Makkah in 630 CE. Lessons from Hudaybiyyah. The Treaty of Hudaybiyyah teaches timeless lessons. Patience in adversity. What appears as a loss may hide a greater victory in Allah's plan. Wisdom in leadership. The Prophet showed that peace and diplomacy can achieve what war cannot. Trust in Allah. Even when circumstances seem against us, faith and obedience lead to ultimate success. Conclusion, the Treaty of Hudaybiyyah is now just a political agreement. It was a strategic and spiritual triumph. It transformed the course of Islamic history, proving that patience, wisdom, and faith in Allah can turn apparent defeat into undeniable victory. The Prophet Muhammad's conduct during this event remains one of the greatest examples of prophetic leadership, foresight, and trust in divine guidance.